Photography is my way of exploring the world. It's my way of connecting with people. It is my way of saying there was this moment, it existed, here's my evidence that we had this moment together. And the amazing thing about photography is it lives forever. No one changes their expression. No one dies. You know, they're alive, they're in that moment. We've captured it, we've had this moment together, and it can be shared forever. So I photographed Andy Warhol, and he's staring at me forever in that picture. Kobe Bryant, we built a set in a motel room in LA in the studio, and he's whispering to me. And forever he is there, and he's whispering to me, and there's that moment that we shared. The whole cast of Friends, they're in these boxes, and they're all beautiful and at the height of friendsdom, and there they are forever in these boxes. And there's Mac Miller recording Missed Calls in the booth down in Lawrenceville, and he's looking at the lyrics on his phone and singing them to me, and he's there forever. I felt like all my time with Mac Miller was his safe space. I was never with him when he was alone. I was with him when he was performing or backstage or that one night in the studio. That night was a prom from the school that he went to, Alderdice, that I also went to in Pittsburgh. And he had gone to the prom, this is well after he graduated, and performed at the prom. And it was kind of very well known then, and then goes right to the studio in Lawrenceville and goes in this little padded booth, and I'm sitting on the floor in the booth, and he's reading missed calls off his phone and singing it. I found being around him was just super positive always. He was a really generous guy. He was really fun. He obviously took himself seriously, but not like overly serious. It felt like he was pretty good with distractions, or not to be distracted, but he could do his work without everyone having to clear out. At that stage of his career, which is 2012. I felt like musically, it was not as interesting at that stage of his career as the albums were. But the energy at the concerts was all about this shared energy with the audience. It wasn't really about, I didn't think it was about the music. There was just such a powerful connection with the audience. They knew every word. So when he started singing something, they're way ahead of him even. So I felt like the songs got raced a little bit and were faster than they were on the album. And it was just this kind of wild fusion with the audience and him. And it was like 1 + 1 = 3. It was that moment where he was on his game and so exciting. The audience was just there to be with him, and they were both creating something that was really special. So people always ask me when I photograph celebrities, were they down to earth? And the last thing I want is a person to be down to earth. That's the least interesting of all. However, you think that you want the person that you're connecting with, or whose music you're into, or a movie star, whatever, to be down to earth. The truth is, you want to feel that they're down to earth, and you also want them to be bigger than life. So it's this combination of them appearing to be just like you, but also they're the ones that are up on stage. They're the ones that are in the light. They're the ones that are recording this incredible music and really pouring their soul into everything they're doing. So it's really a combination. I think that you have to be authentic to yourself. I feel with Mac, in my experience, he was onto a level of joy that was just infectious. So was all of his life joy? Probably not. Of course not, no one's is. But he was able to tap into this, like, into your best feeling, into his best person. And he could do it in a way where he really could connect with lots of people. I don't think he took anything for granted. I mean, even if you listen to his lyrics, it's like, this is happening, he's working hard, he wants it to happen, but I think there's also this sense of wonder in his career. Well, I grew up with his mom, Karen. She was a year older than me, I think, and so we were growing up in the same neighborhood. She's a photographer, and we would talk photography through the years and everything. And then, well, the first time my mom called me, and she said she went to Malcolm's bar mitzvah. And she said there was something about this kid on stage that was infectious. There was and my mom had gone to a lot of bar mitzvahs. And she wouldn't normally say that. Most kids are like monotone and like just going, like trying to get through it, and they're nervous. And she said he was just incredible up on that. But I think everyone knew early. There's something, like, I didn't know him that young. I probably didn't know him till he was 20. But there's something about that that's kind of woven into your DNA. And he was able to not only take this quality that he had of great charisma and great talent, but he was able to connect with the world. In my experience, coming back to Pittsburgh, he's like such an important part of this town. He is very much Pittsburgh. Like all the qualities in Pittsburgh that made me the photographer that I am, you doing the work that you're doing, you know, those of us that have been able to take what's great about Pittsburgh and elevate it and do something where we're connecting with a bigger audience. There's something very soulful here and something very powerful and something, honestly, I think a little bit, there's a little humility mixed in. There's a little feeling of a community really supporting you. I don't know this from experience, but from what I have seen and read, it feels like Mac was really supported by his friends and his community and his parents, and and that allowed him to take what was really special about him and magnify it and share it with the world. Well, my son was like 5 years old. He was filming Party on Fifth Avenue, you know, half a mile from where I live. And it was right, they were actually working out of, I think, the house that he grew up in. And they were all dressed as old men, and they're walkers. His whole crew had walkers and everything. And Ian Wolfson is filming at Rex Arrow, and he did incredible work with Mac, like those videos, all of them. And they're all coming down the street, and there's this truck with the camera going, and they're all in costume. There are all these neighborhood kids that they're keeping just out of the picture, but it wasn't teenage kids or adults. It's like 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds that are all following this, not really knowing Mac's music, but here's a big music video in our neighborhood. And I had my son there. He was 5 years old, Jackson, and he was thrilled at the spectacle, but he didn't really know the music. When I was with him, he couldn't have been warmer or nicer, and my wife Steffi and we're backstage at Red Rocks, and he was just the guy that was like asking about people's kids, if their kids were there. He was down talking to them. He was every story that I've heard of him is just incredible generosity, especially with musicians that got to open for him and launch their career. Anderson .Paak and Chance the Rapper, they opened for Mac. But what was funny is when we were at Red Rocks, he opened for Wiz Khalifa. But we are at Red Rocks, and when I took pictures, I'm like the old guy there. I'm much older than him, and they just said, do whatever you want. I would be like crawling around backstage. They come on the stage, like, don't worry, take your pictures. And they respected what I did and gave me a lot of freedom. And there's this picture from Red Rocks. It's one of my favorite pictures of Mac, where he is laying down on the ground, pointing up at the sky, and you can see every face in the crowd and the big Red Rocks. And those moments, like, you're taking that picture and like, this is a pretty cool picture, but it's also this moment that as a photographer, you are trying to find these moments that are bigger than life. These are like the moments that you want to share with the world. This is where something special is happening. There's this connection happening. And I always feel like my pictures are not about the visuals. It's not about the light, although a light is a tool that I use. It's not about the composition. It is about what the picture feels like and how I can let the audience, the person looking at the picture, connect with the subject and connect with the story. And he had such a great, big, full of life, full of joy story. And those are the stories that I love sharing, because that's what I'm looking for. When I grew up in Pittsburgh, there was a feeling of joy that I had growing up, and I never identified it, but it was always inside of me. And I left Pittsburgh after high school. I came back 4 years ago, and what I what I discovered coming back is I've been trying to recreate that feeling of joy every single day with every picture I take, but I didn't realize it. It was unconscious. So I'm with someone like Mac, and he is so full of that joy that was born blocks away from where I grew up at the same high school. It wasn't a shared experience, but it was a shared community that we both grew up with. And I could so appreciate what he was trying to do in such a different way than I was doing it, in such a different way than you're doing it. But it was so much about this place that we love and this place that is so generous to us. He was full of joy. He was my experience. And it's not fair because I photograph a lot of people who have issues. I photographed a lot of people that have died too young. I've photographed a lot of people who have played too fast and burnt out. But my experience is always about trying to find that joy that I felt growing up. And Mac, in what he did, was so special, and everyone felt it and everyone knew it, but he had the confidence and the talent and the vision to make it a reality and also do it in a way that let us in, that invited us in. He was like a big room and saying, come in here. It's gonna be fun, it's gonna be inspired, it's gonna make you happy, it's gonna make you think about things that you might not have thought about, and I'm gonna take you on this journey.